Hola, amiga. Welcome to the Latina Leadership Podcast, a podcast by Latinas for all women. Get ready because today's conversation is really special. Hola, amigas. Welcome back to another episode of the Latina Leadership Podcast. My name is Edna. I'm one of your co-hosts for today, and I'm so excited to introduce our wonderful guest. If you can go ahead, tell us your name and what you do.
Hola, amigas. My name is Veronica Pedersen. I am the co-founder and CEO of Timeless Skincare.
And Veronica, I was looking at the fact that you got inspired to get into skincare from your mother. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that came to be for you?
Sure. My mom was a Guatemalan immigrant, and one of her first jobs in the United States was working for a skincare company. In fact, actually, kind of all encompassing like spa salon type of thing, was called Aida Gray in Beverly Hills. And she started them when she was 17 years old, filling jars full of beauty products. And so she had, she was there for about almost 35 years, I believe. And during the process of 2008, my co-founder and I, were kind of like in a situation in life, right, where I think a lot of people were at that time frame. And my mom really inspired us to kind of like start a skincare line, essentially, and directed it in the in the direction in which we, where to buy product and where to get actually like the the containers, like some of the ingredients, and my co-founder is like the chemist of the company. And so he really ran with it, and here we are now 15 years later.
Oh, wow. 15 years.
Yeah. 15 years, yes.
And were you originally in the skincare beauty product line before you came into Timeless?
No. Prior to Timeless, I was a medical assistant and a transplant coordinator, organ transplant coordinator, and I was going to nursing school at the time and to be a registered nurse. And things just kind of fell into place. I think when you have a inkling of what you should be and what you should be doing, because prior to all of that, prior to like my experience in the medical field, I participated in entrepreneurship programs in high school. In fact, one of them was called Academy of Business Leadership, and it was a phenomenal program. I was a valedictorian of the program, and when I was like 16, I learned how to create business plans and learned about funding and just kind of just different things like that. But so I think I from a very young age, my spirit was definitely an entrepreneur spirit. But you know how it is. Sometimes you get out of school and, I mean, I had the grades for it, so I didn't go immediately to college. I went to community college. And then, sometimes in Latino households, we have to go straight to work, and help the family out and stuff like that as soon as you're of age. So, but yeah, one of my first jobs, I was 14 years old and labeling nail polishes. And since then, I haven't stopped working. So,
oh, wow. 14 years old. So,
yeah, 13. Yeah, I bought a boombox that summer with my paycheck. That's how old I am.
I mean, you still look really good, no matter how old you are. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're like plug. And so how did you and your co-founder meet? How did that come to be? And
Sure, yeah. We met through school, and it was just kind of like a conversation, and things just kind of developed from there. It took a while, obviously. I mean, we started off first like on eBay, then I transitioned onto Amazon before like Fulfillment by Amazon existed, or like say FBA or Amazon Prime or anything like that now. So we were very much in the early stages of e-commerce, essentially. And understanding the development of it's gone over the last 15 years. While everything is now it's just like a one-pay system, or there's just so many different apps developed now. It's absolutely incredible what has progressed over the last, and obviously like social media and other platforms like that, But in the very beginning, it was just him and I in an apartment, and packaging and sealing, labeling, doing everything from a very like clean perspective, obviously. Now we have our own laboratories and our own like fill rooms and our own everything now in a 90 square foot warehouse in total in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
But from the very beginning, it was a challenge to say the least. We were not business people, and I just knew that I had to do the right thing at the end of the day. If anything you do, you have to just do it to the right of your best of your ability, and always first and foremost be your customer.
Yeah.
That's the first and foremost. How would you like it if you purchased something and it wasn't to the standards that you thought, or it wasn't going to meet those standards, or perhaps like you wasted your money and you feel like gypped or scammed or something of that nature. And I think it happens a lot more than we think nowadays, especially with like how ads are pushed off onto social media platforms and TikTok and all this kind of stuff. But with that said, you have to have integrity about what you do. And so at Timeless, it's all about integrity.
Absolutely. And I know that speaks for your products too, because they're all natural, which, I mean, can you speak more into why you stuck with all natural? Because I know a lot of people tend to go into the other chemicals. And
Sure.
what was your passion and your why for that?
Sure. I think the passion just stems from my co-founder's background is Korean. My background is Guatemalan. And I feel that even in our own cultures, a lot of like the food that we have is very kind of like naturally based in some respect. Like it's good when you have like a good caldo, like, and it's so simple ingredients. There's nothing like devastating to it. You know what I mean? It's not like this crazy amount of ingredients. And so I can probably count 7 in my head right now for a good caldo, and that's it. That's all me. And so that's kind of the same concept when it comes down to skincare in general, right? Products. Remember, the skin is the largest organ you have, and so anything you're placing onto your skin will eventually make itself way into the body, right?
Yeah.
And so we have to be mindful of those kinds of things. And so the creation of it was truly kind of keeping that in mind. Simple is sometimes easier and sometimes better. And the idea also was sustainable for us too as entrepreneurs who were making our own products in house. It was more cost effective as well. And so there was a lot of like reasons why it came to be that way.
Wow. And being minorities in the beauty business, the skincare business, did you and your founder have like face any problems or any struggles while you were
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The struggles, first and foremost, have to be the standards that are provided. You know, even now, being a Latina, an obese Latina at that, and not having a formal college education is some of those like standards that's like a wall you meet. And it's a misconception that people have, like you have to have like a certain beauty standard, right? Which is maybe not us in on billboards and magazines and things of that nature. So I really we hit a wall for sure, but at some point or another, when you're creating something and doing something from a perspective of integrity, people will follow that. And with that said, is just making your own standard and going about it from that perspective, because my founder and then co-founder is a chemist, but he's a male chemist, and a Korean at that, and which is interesting because Korean beauty is like a big thing now, right? And so we were doing that 15 years ago, right? And so I think looking back at it, you have to just make your own standard, and be unapologetic about what you do. Now, 15 years later, I'm so unapologetic. I'm like, I've already done this. I've been there. I've gone through the seminars. I've had the controversy. I've gone through it all, and we're still growing, obviously, constantly figuring things out and learning things. But I'm so unapologetic now. It's not even funny. I'm so unapologetic now about everything.
No, and that's, I mean, as you should be, honestly. Um, when you did encounter those struggles though in the beginning, like what inspired you to keep going? What was your motivation behind it, especially in the beginning?
Sure. I think tenacity is everything, right? It's having to say, well, I started something and let me try to see it to the end. Even if it was gonna fail. It's kind of like I have $400 to my name. What else was I gonna do with the situation? My co-founder was in the same boat. My parents were both unemployed. Again, remember this is the 2008, 2009 time frame when there was a huge housing crisis and economic issues and all kinds of stuff. Lots of people unemployed, and who would start a business then, right? But we started a business and used our resources and just kind of was like, okay, well, we made a little bit of money here and, we'll reinvest it. And it's been a constant thing. When a little bit of money came in, more reinvestments happen. My parents were like my first employees. My tios were my first employees. My cousins were my first employees. And in fact, are still my employees. They're still staff with Timeless at this time. And so, it's really been like a family endeavor per se. And I think because of the familial support that you get, you just kind of continue day by day. And you got to take it day by day and be resourceful and realize that it's not all about like what you can get with it, meaning like cars and houses and jewelry and all the brand names and all that stuff. It's super cute, but it's not all the set all be all, you know what I mean? So, in the very beginning, I think it's just having the tenacity to go forward and say, I want to complete something. And like I said, I'm here 15 years later, very much still striving and driving the ship for sure.
Yeah, and I saw that you were also in Target in
Mhm.
Alibaba. How, as someone who's in the Latino community, were you able to, get through those boundaries, those walls that they like? How did you break through and were able to put your products there?
Sure. I think the first and foremost, products do speak for themselves.
Yeah.
We really didn't have like a massive like advertising marketing. I would say the first 6, 7 years of our business, to be very frank with you, it was all about inside growth and like all the reviews, the authentic reviews. We had no influencers, no content creators, hardly any like photographs and videos and all these kinds of things. I mean, I tell you, it's God sent the way things really happened. But I honestly believe it's because the products work for people, and it's word of mouth that was really key for our growth process. And as far as Target and Alibaba was concerned, I think it's because they see the ethos of the brand. They see exactly how we conduct ourselves, exactly how also the reviews. You can't beat the reviews for the last 15 years. And the fact that the products do work. And so I'm very honored to be a part of like Target and have been recognized by Alibaba and their platforms and stuff like that. We were back in 2017. We were in Detroit with Alibaba. They had they had this whole thing in Detroit with Jack Ma, and it was absolutely phenomenal to have met Mr. Ma and just to be a part of something like that. Again, to be recognized for your efforts, it's hard to be recognized for your efforts. And so I also don't, if I can say from this perspective, I also don't take into a lot consideration like my own ethnicity when it comes down to things or even my gender. I just take it from the perspective of like, I'm doing what I'm doing. And I think at least in the beginning, I didn't really associate it with too much. I wasn't like the girl that was like, a girl boss or like, that kind of like mentality. I think I was just like, I'm just here and I'm present and I don't need to identify with something in order to make it special. You know what I mean? And so I'm honored that I'm so honored to be a part of a segment in the world now that I can actually speak on my gender, my religion or my or like just my ethnicity in general, right? I'm proud to be a Latina, of course, and to be in a Latina space. But at the same time, I don't let it identify me either because I feel that it pigeonholes me and it puts me just like in a small category sometimes. And I feel like if I can go away from that, we have a lot more success because I felt at least that a lot of more doors opened up for me when I stopped doing that part.
Okay. And how are you able to then separate yourself in that way? Because I know you're able to be more outspoken now.
Sure, absolutely. I think then in the growth process, then it was just about, hi, my name is Veronica, nice to meet you. Right.
Yeah.
And depending on like who you're speaking to and what way you're speaking to people and how you're meeting people, it's just how you like read the room, right? I was never forefront like, hey, what's up? Me llamo Veronica, nice to meet you guys, the Latina, and especially the LA Latina didn't come out of me.
Yeah.
So I think that in the very beginning it was just about, you know, not trying to play something you're not. It's just saying like, look, I am who I am. Obviously, you can't change what you look like on the outside, true, but I'm going to expel the type of stereotypes that unfortunately we have. Sometimes Latinas, we get a bad rap for certain things that we act a certain way, or we talk a lot with our hands, and there's a lot of clink clacking going on, and just like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's a stereotype.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's unfortunately the case, right? And so I wanted to be the person that didn't have that stereotype that said, hey, look, we are educated Latinas. We do have empowerment about us. We have a certain type of decorum about us. And so we don't have to fit into a stereotype, and you don't have to put me into a certain situation. This is who I am. And I do wear it proudly. However, you don't stereotype me. You can't. So I never gave them a reason to stereotype me. And I moved forward. I educated myself. I learned PR skills. I did different things like that in order to sort of assimilate to a certain world. And now it's not necessarily the case. Now I can like say, well, yeah, it's okay. So I had to play the game in order to be where I'm at now. And unfortunately, sometimes that might be the case, even for in any gender per se, in any ethnicity.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, unfortunately, you kinda have to play the game until you get to a certain point. You're able to
Yeah.
much
Well,
better.
absolutely. It's sad to say that, but I think a lot of things have already pivoted and changed. I mean, like I love going into a Target and seeing all kinds of different faces and different races and different body types being promoted on a lot of like inside their walls or whatever the case is. You see in like some of the marketing, and in fact, a lot of brands are doing that now. And it's phenomenal to see so much representation in so many ways. So um again, I believe that it's because the stereotypes are like now just kind of shifting away, and it's no longer the stereotypes that we're like pigeonholed to.
Yeah. And what advice would you give to someone who's looking to be in the beauty space, in the uh skincare space? Like
Sure.
if they're starting out, I know they have a lot more resources now than they did when you started, but if they're seeking for that advice, what would you let them know? What would you tell them? How would you motivate them?
I would say first and foremost, do it for the right reasons. I'm not saying like we all need money to live and we all need like a certain one of lifestyle or whatever the case is. But if you want to do it for money reasons, you're going to fizzle out pretty quickly. It'll be like a quick kind of gain and that's it. I never focused on that. I've always focused on being like a legacy brand and something that I can pass on to family members or my children or something of that nature. But I always believe in like just doing it from the right perspective. So if you're going to be introducing products into the market, then make sure that they're fully researched, that the ingredients have been researched, that they're good for you in that respect, that you're just not trying to like do something to essentially harm somebody or just make a sale, because all of that sooner or later will fizzle out. And our industry is extremely saturated. You'll see brands pop up and it's like the newest best thing. And it's like, I don't know, snail like mucus for your face. And it's just like all this stuff. And you're just kind of like, oh, great. And it's all the people are buying it. And then it phases itself out. Because a lot of times some of the ingredients are not like tried and true ingredients. They're phenomenal ingredients coming out, especially like in the new bio space for sure. But there's a lot of ingredients that are tried and true. It's just your hyaluronic acid as an example, your vitamin C or certain peptides or whatever the case is. And it's phenomenal the research that's happening. But my advice would be do it for the right reasons. And whatever you do, have integrity in what you do. Make like as if you're gonna make something and you're gonna give it to your mom, you're not gonna want to hurt your mom, right? You're not want to do anything from that perspective. So I always consider it from that idea that I would always want to do something that's correct, that's right. And in the long run, I know it'll be a smaller process to start, but I can guarantee success if you continue just to do the right thing.
Yeah, it's all about doing the right thing,
Absolutely. Yeah, and anything you do.
which you continue doing even 15 years later.
Yeah, which is hard. I'm not gonna lie. You know, you have the ability now to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna manufacture my products elsewhere where I can probably the overheads would be less. An example, I can send them overseas somewhere, or I don't know, something of that nature, right? That's what a lot of companies do. They tend to outsource,
Yeah.
and outsourcing, cause like the big line is like labor, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't do that. We manufacture everything here in the United States, everything in Houston, Texas. Every little bottle comes out of our facility there. And I think about, you know, how people live. How do we treat our employees? How do they survive, right? All this kind of stuff. And so timeless isn't just about what's inside the bottle. It's just the ethos of the entire organization. And so that's the advice I'm giving is that assure that what you're doing is going to benefit everybody around you because now as a $20 million plus company, um, it's intense to say, you know, you have the ability now to just cut corners if you want to cut corners, but that's not the case. I didn't want to do that. I still don't want to do that. I want to very much be a USA made brand. You know, I mean, the US gave my parents an opportunity to thrive here. And so, as a first generation Latina, I felt that it was my duty to assure success because they migrated here, they've struggled here, they worked like night and day, you know, they did everything they could to put food on the table for us. And you know, a roof over our head. And I grew up in a very not wanting or needing anything per se. You know, I mean, we didn't live lavishly. I'm very comfortable at that, you know. And I just felt it was my duty to do so.
Yeah. And that's completely like you can see it in the brand, you can see it in the products, and
Yeah.
like you mentioned, in everything that you do in the business.
Yeah. They get even in the personal life. That's what you have to just be. You know, you have to exemplify that. Um, And I mean, as you know, Latinos, when we do something, we do it right. Everything from like food to music to, you know, we're so like involved in so many aspects of things that people, you know, love our culture and they eat our foods and they listen to our music. And it's very much like a part of life, you know, because we just do it the right way and we do it by all means, we do it any which way can get done. So we figure it out.
And would you say that's how you were able to build your loyal customer base? Was through all
Absolutely.
as you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was just about doing the right thing. I can't even exemplify that more. I most recently was actually really cute. I hosted one of our kind of like first YouTubers, I would say. She's now in her 70s and her name is Mary Ellen. Shout out to Mary Ellen. But she's like super sweet. I've known her, I guess it's now almost like 10 plus years, maybe 12 years or so. And I had finally a pleasure of meeting her. Flew her out to Houston because we were doing like some like a little promo thing going on. And it was phenomenal. The fact that she had been and continues to use the products to this day and talks about timeless the way it is. And even she was like so taken back by the hospitality, by the way that our facilities are so clean and managed. And she just didn't even realize the magnitude that it takes in order to do this on like a daily basis, you know? And so for us, it was so important to continue that process. And no matter our growth, no matter if I went from a 3,000 square foot warehouse to 8,000 to then like 20,000 to 60,000 to now 90,000 of a facility, the mind frame and the mindset, it's still there, continuing on. So, um, yeah, it's been a growth for sure.
Yeah, and you continue to have those loyal customers. Of course, like you mentioned the YouTuber you were able, maybe Ellen, to host, and she saw everything that you do in person, which is incredible. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely, and it was very heartfelt for me as well, because she was very much like a first kind of like person that believed in us. And it was just really nice to I felt a little full circle in some respect. So
yeah.
it was very nice to have her, and I hope to see her again one day. So
Oh, I love that you were also able to build like that relationship with her.
absolutely. Yeah. And again, a lot of that comes from our culture, to be honest with you, the hospitality of our nature, the way we invite people into our homes, and sometimes we don't even know them, but here's a plate of food, and then take this food too to go. And like it's always something of that nature, it's or they have the neighbors over or whatever the case is, right? And so it's our nature also. So I guess a lot of what the ethos of what Timeless is kind of like my nature, combined with just my family too. But my family is very much part of my company.
Cool. Then they continue to be even now.
Yeah, so I have cousins that work for me still, family friends, and my parents are now retired, so I was able to retire them, and what a blessing that has been in that respect also. To be able to afford to retire my parents, and because one of the things I think that we lack in our culture is like uh talking to people about like financial abilities, the thought process of what retirement does look like later on. So we don't have the sense of, well, some people do, but I didn't grow up with like understanding sort of like certain financial things, what like a Roth IRA is, or what a 401k plan is, or like retirement funds and savings and things like that. So the idea that I think probably in the next 10 years, not now, but I want to start my own foundation where we talk about financial literacy to the Latino communities, and do it from a perspective of that's easy to understand, that we're not trying to like over like scam people or nothing of that nature, have like integrity about it, also integrity about the information as well, like that kind of stuff. Because growing up, I had no financial literacy. I mean, how to write a check or whatever the case is, but we all have tias and tios and abuelas and people that are still working in their like later years, and it's because we didn't really plan for it per se. And so I think one of the visions that I have in the future is to really talk to the Latino community about financial literacy. Not just for those that can essentially afford it, but like for all incomes essentially, and talking to people about opportunities like that.
And that's much needed. And I love that you were able to do that for your parents because, I understand coming as myself being a first generation born here too, like that is something that we're not taught. We're not taught what a Roth is. We're not taught what a
Right.
401k is. None of these things are something that is taught until someone tells us what it is. So we're the ones having to teach the older generation.
Sure. And then sometimes it's not to say that it's too late in some respect, but sometimes it can be, depending on like how old someone may have, or where their money has been placed in, or certain things of that nature. So I feel like I feel that as an entrepreneur or a personnel of like some sort of influence, to talk about financial literacy, which is kind of like a next phase of my life where I think I'm headed. I
Yeah.
think I'm headed in the next 10 years towards my own foundation, where I want to spread out in different ways. I want to help like doggies, and I want to help Latinos with financial literacy. I have a passion for jujitsu athletes, and what do they do after their life with jujitsu, and or after their fighting career, whatever the case is, and where do they go after all of that kind of thing, and after all that success. And so there's so many different avenues. I feel like I have like all of these different passions going on all at the same time. And I'm really excited to see what that 10 years will be. I'm giving myself 10 years because there's a lot going on still with Timeless.
Absolutely. And when those things happen, let everyone know. We would love to know ourselves to be recorded at the Latina Leadership Podcast as well. Because those are incredible things that we also want to touch on too for the community. Because it's, yeah, we understand it's not something that everyone's born to learn to taught with. And so I love that you're able to want to have that foundation and have that place for people to go to.
Right. I think you hit the altruistic perspective of your life once you've hit a certain amount of success. You feel like, okay, well, I don't need like the big houses and I don't need the big cars and all the extra stuff that come with the lifestyle, right? Or the name or whatever the case is. I think that I want to give back in some respect. And I hate to say it like that because it sounds so cliche, but I feel like the altruistic perspective of my life is kind of like starting to settle in a little bit. And now I have maybe a little bit more time on my hands to dedicate to that. So I really much look forward to the altruistic perspective, you know. And again, for those wanting to get into any space, any entrepreneur space, like realize that at some point or another, it will be that you will want to start giving back because now you have the means to, or help with college tuitions or whatever the case may be, you know.
Yeah.
So we'll see where that's headed.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm excited to see what when it happens. I'll personally be staying tuned to that.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you.
you're welcome. I like absolutely all about that all of stuff. And I do want to ask then, is this the legacy that you're hoping for Timeless and for yourself and for your family that you're wanting to leave?
Absolutely. Um, it's so personal. It's so personal because as a business owner knows, it's a 24-hour, 7-day a week job. It's not like I get to clock in and clock out, right? My phone is constantly ringing, constantly dinging, constantly going off, no matter what I might be doing, you know? And, you know, then your personal life hits you, and it's all these kinds of changes are occurring. And then you yourself may feel like, what is that, the term? uh I think of like an imposter syndrome, right? Where it's like, well, yes, you're a girl boss, you're a CEO, you're this, you're that, you know, and you feel like, no, I'm not. I like to eat tacos and like I go and get $1.50 Costco hot dog, you know. I'm like, I I am not what you think I am in that respect, you know. And but then I have to be, right? And so there's all these things, and leaving a legacy for me is like the mark that I left on this world, the mark that I left, that I did something good, that I did good by people, that in my personal life and my professional life, that the mentality that I have, the God-fearing mentality that I have, also all of that stuff, I want that to go after me. Right. And somehow, where do I do that? And how do I do that? And how do I solidify that? And so I think that's kind of like where I'm at now. I'm in my 40s now. I feel like I'm in the best time of my life to do that. I'm resourceful at this time. I have the ability to do that. Maybe not the time per se at the moment, but I'll get there. And leaving a legacy, I think all of us should think about leaving a legacy of some sort. You know, if it's not a foundation, at least it's a thought process or a way of, you know, oh, that was a good person. That person belonged here. Then that we all had purpose in some sort. And maybe a lot of times I feel like, again, with the imposter syndrome, is that maybe, yes, I have purpose. I don't know my purpose sometimes, but then something comes about where someone needs help, um or someone's like so happy that their skin looks amazing now, and that because they have a sense of confidence, they were able to go and get the job that they wanted or find the love of their life. And so you think about like all the things that you do and how you change people's lives, their trajectories actually, all in total. So it changes your trajectory.
Yeah.
And so there's purpose in that, you know. There's purpose in anything that we do. If you buy a water bottle for someone that you see out on the street, you go inside, you're inside a convenience store and you get a water bottle for yourself, and you see someone outside, you know, I'm going to get that water bottle for someone too, and you hand them a water bottle. Well, you just change their trajectory that day. And so each single day we have an opportunity of purpose. And so it's not maybe on the grander scale of things because it can be on a daily little basis. Every minute of the day is an opportunity for purpose. So it's important to think of it from that perspective. And we Latinas are very powerful. Women in general, just saying, women in general. But I feel like as being a Latina, man, we wear so many hats, in our households, and so yeah, it gets like that.
Absolutely. And yeah, I completely understand the whole wearing many hats, especially being firstborn, this you definitely wear many hats. And what would you say is your purpose then, for as Veronica? What was your purpose?
Yeah. I think my purpose has changed a little bit. I went through some personal things recently in my life that changed the trajectory for me, actually. And professionally, things are great, right? But when things happen to you personally, you start to think, well, exactly then what is my purpose? Because I thought I had purpose here, but I don't have purpose there anymore, right? And so I start to think I honestly at the moment I don't know. That's what I mean by I've taken the approach where every minute of the day is an opportunity for purpose.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I don't have like a larger thing in mind at the moment, but I feel like I know where I want to go. Like I told you with the foundation, and I know where I want Timeless to be. I know where I want to hit at some point and being like, okay, cool. This is the machine that we have. It's working and we're going to just keep churning it out and keep doing what we got to do in this life. And I think I can meet that standard at some point.
Yeah.
But personally, purpose, I think, is just every single day, every minute of the day is purpose. Like I'm gonna leave that as a slogan because I think it's a lot to put on anybody, right? I think on yourself, even like, what's my purpose today? And it's like this grander karmic destiny universe, God, what am I gonna do today? Kind of a theme. That's a lot. It's a lot to place on anybody, even yourself, to place it on yourself. So I want people to micro do it, have micro purpose. Every single day there's an opportunity for purpose. So, and then it'll come. I'm like I said, I'm God fearing, and I know God puts me in places where I need to be, and I've noticed that very much so over the last couple of years, and I'm thankful to be in those spaces, where I was supposed to be there, and I was able to help someone in that one moment, and it was nothing that needed to be broadcasted. It's not on social media somewhere, nothing of that nature. But it happened, and I'm thankful. And I really believe again, it's because it's the energy that you have, the positivity that you bring into this world. And if you can do that, it'll influence so many different people around you, from a professional perspective and a personal perspective. And I'm thankful for that. Maybe that is the legacy, minute micro purposes.
And those are great because people don't think about those
Yeah.
a lot. And so what would you say is next for Timeless then?
Absolutely. Timeless and our distribution efforts continually going into other spaces, other markets. Right now we're in 85 countries.
Yeah.
And obviously we're in Target. We're obviously would love to see our spaces like in an Ulta, perhaps like a Sephora of some sort. I think just that kind of those spaces. I want to go more into our Latino market. I think which is so interesting because being a Latina, you would think it would be like a thing that people would jump on. And fairly, it's just different. And it's going into that market is a little bit more different, and so I'm focusing our efforts into that market. And I'm just we're just keeping doing what we got to do. We got to ensure that we can continue having certain price point, which is important now during our certain economic situations. I think that and I'm growing too big that we can't handle ourselves. You know what I mean? That's the other factor to all of this. It's that like the slow and steady progression of growth has to continue being the mentality, because if it gets too big, it'll fail, and so like I don't want that for ourselves either. So slow and steady is the game. I plan on more distribution, working on different products right now, but I don't bring anything to market unless like I'm confident that it will be safe, first of all, second, effective, and third, that we can keep it within the affordability of what we slot, So all of that is actually very difficult. You wouldn't believe it. But it's difficult.
Yeah, especially if people don't know the back end of things, they don't understand everything that has to go into all of that.
Yeah, yeah. Safety standards, research standards, standards for efficacy to assure like that actually what we're saying is being done, like collagen production, tightening of the skin, reducing pores and fine lines, like all this kind of stuff, right? And so like all that stuff matters. And I don't want to bring it to market and it's just, like it fails or something like that, or your customers are not happy with it anymore or something of that nature. And so as I want to be honest in what I do and authentic in what we do, and that's kind of the plan forward.
I love that. And I do want to ask one more thing, a couple more things actually.
Yeah, of course, let's do it.
Angelica, our founder, she has this question she loves to ask all their interviewees. Do you consider yourself a leader and why?
Okay. It's a loaded question because I'm very humble by nature and I don't like to be like, yes, I am,
Yeah.
With that said, I know I am, I know I am. I know I am because people seek me for advice on a professional and personal perspective. I am seeing, you can walk into a room and the aura changes and the energy changes. And a lot of that has to do with your presence and being leaders. That's kind of what happens. And you just know the resourcefulness of how we tick, how we need to move here. This needs to happen here. Like you have constant folders being open and closed in your head. And all of that matters in a leadership position. So yes, I know I'm a leader, but it's because other people have sought me for that kind of advice, for that a sense of direction, the sense of like trusting in what I might be saying in order to help them.
Yeah.
And I like it and I don't like it because it's a sense of responsibility. Because you may say something to somebody and they take your advice and it doesn't work. And so then if it doesn't work, you're just like, well, my bad. I didn't mean to like maybe lead you that direction or whatever the case is. But I feel like I'm definitely a leader. But I don't necessarily like to identify as one. I think I'd like to identify as just a human being with experience.
Yeah.
And the different experiences come also just because I have an opportunity for those experiences. And because of the opportunity, I'm able now to influence others for sure and influence people in professionally and then from a private perspective also too. And so, yeah, I definitely would say I'm a leader for sure.
And I completely understand where you're coming from with, just because it's a lot to wear. Having that leader, hat.
Sure. Yeah. Well, they say the crown is heavy, right? And in many cases it can be, like I said before, it's a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 days a year job. And a lot of times it's a lot of weight to bear. I can understand why people, a lot of things happen to them in the process of things, but I also feel like I was made for this. I honestly think that somewhere along the line in my life, I had this trajectory because I was that girl in school that even when like the teacher puts you like in a group, right?
Yeah.
And they do like group projects or whatever. So like you're in elementary, middle school, and then all these kids have to get together and like do group, right? And you have to name your group and then you get your task, your project or whatever. Well, I was always the person that was in charge. I, for some reason, was always appointed the person that was like, okay, so delegating things or following up with people or whatever the case is, all throughout high school, all the way up into college too, like my community college days. I was always a group leader somehow. And I would just take on the project over and or take it on and be like, okay, everybody, so we're gonna delegate this. So where's does everyone specialize in and what are everyone's strengths or weaknesses, I was that girl. And I've been that girl since that day. So
That's so it's kind of followed you.
it has, but I guess it's also just mentality perhaps, and it's just like what you were born with. I think we're all born with like certain special things. Like my brother is amazing. He's an amazing musician. And there's no way, absolutely no way I will pick up an instrument or I will sing a song. Don't ask me to go karaoke because it's the worst thing you've ever seen. And it's it's things like that.
That that's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, we all have special talents. Mine is apparently group projects.
And skincare.
It's skincare, yeah.
And if our audience, our listeners, where can they find you? Where can they find you? Where can they find Timeless? Where can they buy your products? And like what where can they follow you?
Absolutely. So we're online. Obviously timeless HA as in Henry Apple.com or as in hyaluronic acid.com. So we're timelessha.com. We're a simple search function. Timeless Skincare. You'll see us pop up on Target at different boutique shops, also different partners that we associate with. You can go to our website and see internationally where we're located. So you can go to our locator and find exactly if you're in a specific country, you're traveling abroad, where you may want to find the products, just in case you missed out on it. And obviously we're on Instagram too, so Timeless Skincare. So we're kind of a little bit all over the place these days, and TikTok and things like that also. So we're very searchable now. And myself, Veronica Pedersen, you can definitely find me. Just Google me, I'm out there. So I'm everywhere these days.
Just Google me.
Just Google me. I I hate that too because sometimes like I don't know, I think my friend tried to use it as a flex one time. I know we were out as a whole thing. And she's like, she's Googleable. And I'm like, just stop that. Like, I'm trying to have a good time tonight. That's not a thing.
It's like, no, I'm not actually just
It's not a thing. Just don't do that.
and for just for those of us who don't know, what is hydrochloric acid?
Sure. So hyaluronic acid is a ingredient that we use in all of our products, and it basically helps the skin hold moisture in. It tends to plump the skin up, so giving the effects of the fine lines and wrinkles being reduced, and then also does moisturize the skin on top of that. And so adding it with peptides, adding it to vitamin C, adding it to different things like that, it's just very much a carrier for everything. And it's very beneficial for the skin. So it's definitely our first ingredient, essentially the hyaluronic acid here, which was exactly that. It was 4 ingredients. And it was our powerhouse ingredient. And now our other powerhouses are our matrixyl line, which are peptides. We have our 20% vitamin C ferulic acid, which is one of our top sellers. Again, it's because it's minimal ingredients. It's right to the point, high actives, a high concentration of the active ingredients. And so hyaluronic acid specifically is really beneficial for its skin. In fact, you actually find hyaluronic acid in many products and makeup products as well. So it's very much a time and true ingredients.
And are your products for anybody at any age, or is there like an age limit?
Sure. So we technically advise that adolescents not use the products per se. I would say anywhere between, over 16 is a good idea. Again, because our dermis is constantly changing. Even like now in my 40s, I can see my own skin changing. And remember, like, your skin essentially sloughs off or comes back out every 28 days or so, right? So, at a very young age, depending, especially if you're battling acne I know that some of our customers have enjoyed the vitamin B5 serum. It's very much like an antioxidant type of serum. And so people have benefited from like acne, who suffer from acne. Use the serum, really helps them out. It's not something that I like to talk about per se. I'm not a fan of like the 20 ingredients, that, girl at Sephora, she's, taking a whole like 12-year-old getting all these products. I'm not a fan of that. Anti-aging that's exactly what it is. It's anti-aging. And so I think that it's important that we do follow skincare regimens, especially in your teens,
Yeah.
for everything from cleansing, exfoliating, and moisturizing, and maybe some sunscreen. And that's probably all you should be doing unless there's like medical conditions that need to be addressed. But other than that, I don't like that part of our industry that's gearing towards a lot of the younger girls. So I'm anywhere between over the age of 16 to infinity.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I stand with that.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that you see on social media a lot now is young girls doing
Yeah, the skincare holes, and they're doing retinols, and they're doing, very harsh actually ingredients, and, wanting to achieve that glass skin. And again, that's kind of like the industry in which like I don't like being a part of that part, because all of our skin is going to be different. We're going to have like freckles, we're going to have scars or whatever the case is, or we're going to have different ways of our skin being. And so I want to promote healthy skin rather than like a certain like look, and I rather go from like that perspective. And so I want to, thank you for letting me address that, because that's kind of a big deal now, the whole trend that's happening.
Yeah, and I love that you're big on like, if you want to start timeless, 16 and up is probably the best
Yeah.
age.
That's what we should be advising.
And yeah, retinol should definitely be doctor advised.
For sure. Any kind of vitamin A's in that respect, like tretinoin or anything of that nature. It should definitely come from a dermatologist if that's the case. So that's important. And we really should talk about those kinds of things. And obviously, why am I going to be telling you, oh yeah, for sure, buy my products, no problem. But again, it's about having integrity and being honest about what you're doing. We often we do that a lot. Our customer service team is not trained to push products on you. We're very much trained to help assist you, because we know that we don't provide certain moisturizers, we don't provide toners, we don't have sunscreen. I'm very much isolated in like my serums and facial sprays and oils, but I'm okay that if people are using other products, because I use other products myself, so I have my serums and then I use other moisturizing bases or whatever the case is, so I'm very keen on knowing that. So being your customer is key to understanding that, sometimes I do have like 7 different shampoos and they all do the same thing. You know what I mean? In my shower. It's really a thing, so I understand our customers are going to be the same way. I don't try to push any timeless like products like extremely, because what's the point of that? I want you to come back and I want you to use it and be happy with the results that you're achieving, Sometimes also less is better. And I'm not a fan of the skincare hauls that are 20 plus ingredients. A lot of those ingredients are actually the same.
Yeah.
And so it's just packaged differently. You get what I'm saying? And so just for people to be wary about stuff like that.
No, and I love that you're able to, even like on a podcast, be very open and honest about these things, because these are a lot of things that we don't hear, especially from someone who is the co-founder and CEO of their company. Because they kind of just want the sale, and I can tell that you want your customer to be satisfied in what they're buying, and that's something that people should know, that timeless is worth it, especially if you're looking for something on that.
Yeah, we can't always guarantee results, obviously, because it's not necessarily going to say work for everybody. And I hate when, companies are like 100% guarantee. You're like, not everything is 100% guarantee in life. Okay. So we in our industry should learn to have transparency and honesty. I was at a conference in Las Vegas this past July, in which I had to speak on that about like the trends and the, the sense of, I was up there just speaking from a very transparent perspective, and I think it's important. And that it was called Cosmoprof, and that whole thing is about beauty, beauty from hair, nails, and skin and our body, right? And so, our industry should have leaders like myself speaking about transparency, honest integrity, this kind of stuff. And that to me personally will allow for the longevity of products,
Yeah.
There's household names, that continue to do the right thing. And I'm really happy to see that's still a thing, but don't always like fall for the cute little Instagram ads or the celebrities talking about the products or, that kind of stuff. Like, don't always fall for it. There's great stuff out there. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes it's just a gimmick. And, you know, I'm definitely not a gimmick. I'm real. I'm transparent. I'm extremely honest. And I totally have an ethos about timeless. And that's the legacy that I want to leave in our industry.
Yeah. And we can see that even throughout this interview, through your business, and just the way that you present yourself as well as a person. You have a very humble spirit. So I'm excited for our audience to be able to know more about who you are. Like to let in our audience for them, if they don't know what timeless skincare is, for them to go out and discover it for themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it's been. It's been word of mouth. And some of my favorite things that occurs when I have friends and family members, they go to people's houses or whatever the case is. And, someone I don't know completely that I have no relation. There's no, nothing. And they walk into their bathrooms and there's a timeless bottle, on that sink. And they'll send me a picture like, oh my God, I'm at my friend's house. And she doesn't even know who you are and doesn't know nothing about you. And your product is sitting in the bathroom, and it's like, it's nice, it's nice. There's something really like nice about that, or a friend of mine was in France, and that happened to her when she was in France, and she saw someone with using the vitamin C, the travel packets that we have. So they're like single use pocket travel packets. And so this girl was opening one up and applying one at the airport. And I was like, okay. He was really taken back by that because I was like, oh, that's cute. So, but things like that, things like that are really like, it's nice to know that we're making a difference somewhere along the line, and
Yeah.
not only helping people achieve the skincare results that they would want, but then, on the flip side of that, I'm able to, from my personal view, my staff can afford things and live happy, and they're everyone, we're working, right, but we're doing all we can in that respect. And so to see their families thriving and seeing our vendors thrive and seeing like an entire economy around the company,
Yeah.
essentially, so that's something to keep in mind whenever you start having a business in general. You will start affecting other people's lives and their trajectory in that respect also. So
Absolutely. And like what's some lasting tips and advice that you would leave with an inspiring up and coming entrepreneur? Just someone who wants to just start their business. What are just some final tips and advice you would leave for them?
First and foremost, like I've already said before, be your customer. That's it. How is it going? How are you receiving the emails, the communication? Is it easy to contact you? Is it easy to contact people in your company for whatever reason, shipping issues or whatever the case may be, right? Be your customer at the end of the day. And and don't take yourself too serious. That part too. Don't take yourself too serious. You're just a human being like anyone else is. It's nice to wear the title of CEO and stuff like that, but it's a title at the end of the day. And it's better that you are a human being of influence, and you're respected because of that, not you're respected because of your title and like what essentially you can do for people. So be your customer first and foremost is my number one thing I can tell people. After that, everything happens for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Veronica, thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
And once again, could you leave us with where people can find Timeless Skincare?
Sure. Yeah, definitely search us. We're in so many different platforms, Timeless Skincare. Or you can go directly to our website, timelessha.com, or find us in any, I think we're in 1,300 Target stores at the moment. So feel free to find us in Target stores.
Amazing. I'm so excited, and thank you again so much for your time. This was incredible. This was such a great conversation, and I'm excited to see where Timeless goes from here. Uh,
Absolutely.
and everyone else, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for so much for tuning in and to listening to this amazing conversation. We'll catch you on the next Latina Leadership Podcast episode. And until next time, bye. Thank you for joining us in this amazing conversation today. If you need more information or resources, as always, they'll be in the description below. Please don't forget to follow us everywhere at Latina Leadership Podcast to stay updated with our latest releases, events, and more. We'll see you next time.